This presentation is brought to you by Auburn University Department of Poultry Science.
When a hen is actively laying, nutrients from the food she eats are converted into the building blocks of egg yolk. These building blocks, 1/3 protein, 1/3 fat, and 1/3 water, are then carried by the bloodstream from the liver to the ovary. In the ovary, tiny tissue bags called follicles fill with yolk and grow. In 1 to 2 weeks, a follicle grows from less than 1 millimeter in diameter to the mature size of 25 millimeters. When a yolk matures, the follicle ruptures along a line relatively free from blood vessels, the stigma, and the yolk is released. If any blood vessels cross the stigma, a drop of blood may spot the yolk as it is released from the follicle. Called the infundibulum, the funnel-shaped upper end of the oviduct envelops the ovary and catches the most mature follicle as it reaches maturation and ovulates. Then the yolk embarks on a 24-hour journey down the oviduct. When the yolk emerges from the follicle and moves into the upper part of the infundibulum, it's the only time in its progress when it is not covered by a layer of albumin. Fertilization, if it is to occur, will take place here. It will be covered by a dense, shock-absorbing layer of albumin, or egg white. As the albumin forms around the yolk, spiral ridges which run the length of the magnum cause the yolk to spin like a bullet in a rifle barrel. This spinning twists the protein fibers in the albumin just in front of and just behind the yolk, and makes two pigtail-like structures called the chalaza. The chalaza keep the yolk suspended in the center of the albumin and ultimately prevent it from moving around inside the egg. The magnum gives way to the next section of the oviduct, the isthmus. Here, the shell membranes are deposited. These thin layers of protein wrap loosely around the albumin covering the yolk. It is as though the yolk and its layer of albumin are a blob of jello, wrapped with 2 sheets of cellophane. The process does not result in a smooth, egg-shaped structure. In fact, an egg leaving the isthmus probably looks more like a prune than a plum. The partially formed egg then enters the shell gland. Here, over the next 20 hours, the shell will form. First, a thin albumin is secreted. This thin albumin is mostly water, and it moves by osmosis through the 2 shell membranes into the highly concentrated thick albumin surrounding the yolk. This plumps the egg into a normal shape and stretches the shell membranes tight around it, and crystals of calcite form and grow on the outer shell membrane. As the crystals expand, they grow into one another to form a solid shell. Very tiny spaces left in between the crystals leave pores in the shell. Lastly, a special protein solution, called the cuticle, is deposited onto the eggshell. Gas can pass through the proteinaceous cuticle and through the pores in the shell, but the 2 layers protect the egg from harmful bacteria. Finally, in a process called oviposition, the egg flips end over end. This occurs through contractions of the uterus. An important part of the egg does not form until after it is laid. When an egg is laid, it fills the shell. However, a hen's body temperature is 106 degrees Fahrenheit, and eggs are generally laid into environments that are 20 to 40 degrees cooler. As the egg cools, the inner portion contracts and forms an air cell between the 2 shell membranes. A chick would puncture and breathe through the air in this cell before hatching. The fully formed egg now begins another journey. If it has been fertilized, it will go to a hatchery. If not, it will go to one of 2 places: an egg processing and packaging plant for distribution to grocery stores, or to an egg breaking plant where, once processed, the egg will be included in one of countless food products, such as mayonnaise, cake mixes, or salad dressing.
I recently read The Obstacle is the Way, The Timeless Art of Turning Trials into Triumph by Ryan Holiday. As the great Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This mindset is especially relevant today, as we appear to be heading into an economic recession. Most people view a recession as a destructive event, and it is, but it's also a great opportunity. If you're looking to start a business, a recession can allow you to hire great people you wouldn't otherwise be able to. And during a recession, you'll be able to negotiate better contracts with vendors, and you'll get office space or warehouse space for much cheaper than you would when the demand is high. And if you can fight through the recession, you'll come out the other side able to capture more market share and have an easier time marketing your business, since you'll have fewer competitors. In fact, some of the greatest businesses were launched during or shortly after an economic recession. Roy and Walt Disney started Walt Disney Productions at the start of the Great Depression. Costco started during a recession in the late 1970s. And LinkedIn started just after the dot-com bubble burst. A recession is also a great time for savvy investors. A market crash means that great companies are effectively on sale. Instead of buying when the market is reaching higher highs, savvy investors have cash on hand to buy when everyone else is fleeing the market. As Warren Buffett said, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy only when others are fearful. The key to spotting opportunity in a recession or in any other setback in life or at work is to not merely endure a setback, but to love it. Author Ryan Holiday says the first thought should not be, I'm okay with this, or I think I feel good about this, but I feel great about this. Because if it happened, then it was meant to happen, and I am glad that it did when it did, and I am meant to make the best of it. The great German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, my formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, to not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it. An amor fati attitude is more in line with an ancient Stoic attitude than what is considered a Stoic attitude today. Stoics aren't indifferent and unaffected by events. They are cheerful in the face of any event, positive or negative. A simple yet concrete way to practice an amor fati attitude is to see your so-called negative emotions as assets. If you're feeling lonely, love it. It's your body reminding you that you value others, and it's the push you need to reach out and connect with others. Getting frustrated or feeling guilty? That's great. That confirms that you have a higher standard, and you can use that energy you're feeling to maintain that standard. When life punches you in the face, just smile back. Stay cheerful when facing something you hate to gain the upper hand. If someone's rude or dismissive, love it. If it's your boss who's rude and dismissive, you can easily exceed his or her expectations. And if it's your competition who's rude and dismissive, you'll surprise them the next time you face off. Got injured and stuck in bed? Awesome! Now's a great time to rest and catch up on some reading. If you learn to love every obstacle that life throws your way, you'll find that more obstacles offer opportunities to improve your life in some way. Facebook constantly does this. They identify threats and incorporate those threats into their business. They noticed and bought Instagram very early. Then Facebook borrowed stories from a competitor, Snapchat, and made it just different enough to not get sued, and by doing so, they grew to new heights. If you don't run a business, use this concept in your career. Imagine showing up to work and realizing that you no longer have a job. Imagine a candid final conversation with your boss. What other reasons you're being let go? Were any of them within your control? Were there skills you could have built, or strategic relationships you could have developed? This technique is called a pre-mortem. A post-mortem is a common medical exercise. It's when doctors examine the causes of a patient's unexpected death. But a pre-mortem is the act of examining why your career, business, or next work project failed before it fails. When doing a pre-mortem, the key is to go beyond simply protecting your downside, and instead identify the threats to your career, business, or next work project, and find a way to turn those threats into opportunities. In the end, start practicing the timeless art of turning trials into triumphs by seeing the upside of every apparent setback. The first step to spotting the upside is to adopt an amor fati attitude. That is, love whatever life throws your way, and don't wish it to be different. When life metaphorically punches you in the face, smile back. But you need not wait for a setback to spot an opportunity. You can simply simulate setbacks ahead of time. By simulating setbacks, you can strengthen your approach and stay one step ahead of any threat. That was the core message that I gathered from The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, boy, I got a 50 BMG pistol. Yeah, 50 cal pistol. You see it? Yeah. Ah, you gotta wipe your hands when you shoot something like this. 50 cal pistol. Yeah. Well, Mark Chopper and all them boys were shooting with one hand. You gotta shoot something like this. You gotta shoot something like this. Oh, I want another shot, man. I need another shot. That was nothing. I need another shot. Ah! I got one down here.
There you go.
One more time. I got one right here.
That's mine. That's ours.
I'm already ready. Give me one more. That's it?
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I like this, y'all. I like this, y'all. I like this. Say hello to my little friend. I like this gun. I like this one. Say hello to my little friend. I like this gun. I like this one, dog.
You know, I came to North America when I was 17, just by myself, and I had like a few $1,000s. I worked in various like odd jobs and stuff. Worked on my mom's cousin's farm. Worked in a lumber mill, chainsawed logs, various odd jobs, and then went to college in Canada for a couple of years. I graduated with about $100,000 in student debt. I was going to do grad studies at Stanford, and decided to put that on hold to try starting an internet company. But I ended up writing the first maps and directions on the internet. I wrote it personally. That company ended up getting bought by Compaq for about $300 million. I owned 7% of the company, so I got like $20 million from that. Put most of it into X.com, which merged with Confinity to create PayPal, and then I got about $180 million from that. And I put all of that into SpaceX, Tesla, and Solar City. I just basically kept all the chips on the table and just like, let's play another round. And then SpaceX and Tesla ended up being valuable, and that's where I am.
I've been preaching for 40 years. I started preaching in 1982. Preached lots of messages over the last 40 years. This message I'm preaching this morning is one of my top 3 messages in the last 40 years. If I could only bring 3 messages for the rest of my life, this would be one of them. And this message is called The Power of Attitude. I want to talk about our attitudes. Our attitudes determine our success and forge our futures more than any other factor in life. For the rest, if you're saved, that means you're going to heaven, but it doesn't mean your life on earth is going to be good. An unbeliever with a good attitude has more potential than a believer with a bad attitude. David, in the worst times of his life, he had the best attitudes. In the best times of his life, he had the worst attitudes. So you never can say that your circumstances are determining your attitude. The Apostle Paul in Acts 16 was in Philippi. They had just beaten him with rods for preaching the gospel, threw him in jail. At midnight, he was singing praises to God, singing and praising God. Here's the deception. If my circumstances were different, I would have a better attitude. No, you wouldn't. Listen to me. If you can't have a good attitude now, you can never have a good attitude. If your attitude is dependent on circumstances and you don't have a good attitude, it won't be better. Happiness is a chosen attitude, not a state of being. What will it take to make me happy? Just deciding to be happy. Carol Burnett, she's a comedian, very funny comedian, very successful. Both of her parents were alcoholics. She was raised by her grandmother. She never had a bed the entire time she grew up. She slept on a couch. And she studied for school with a bathroom light. And she grew up as a happy person and decided to make other people happy. Hugh Downs says this: a happy person is not a person in a certain set of circumstances, but rather a person with a certain set of attitudes. A happy person is not a person in a certain set of circumstances, but rather a person with a certain set of attitudes. This is Dennis Waitley. This is a quote here. Now, this is my favorite quote outside the Bible right here. Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude. And Abraham Lincoln said, we are as happy as we make up our minds to be. We had a customer, a regular customer of ours, that he was a very wealthy guy. I didn't like going to his house because he was so mean. He was just a mean, dominating kind of a person, rude kind of a guy. So we took this TV out to his house. Had these sweet little kids. He yelled at them all the time, yelled at his wife. Just miserable kind of a guy. Had everything you could want in life. I took a TV out to his house one morning, and I left his house, and I just thought, I hate going out to this place because just, the way he is. And so that afternoon, we had a refrigerator delivery to one of the poorest parts of our city. And we drove up in front of this house, and it was just a little bitty wood-framed house, white wood-framed house. And I went to the door, and I knocked on the door, and this little old man about this big came to the door, and he opened the front door. He said, hey, are you the refrigerator guy? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, get in here then. Wife was in the kitchen, just super sweet. So we put the refrigerator on the dollies, and as we were taking the old refrigerator out, they toasted it. And they poured champagne in their glasses, and they said, thank you, old refrigerator. You have been a wonderful refrigerator. You've been a wonderful part of our family. Goodbye, we love you. And we rolled the old refrigerator out, and I'm thinking, I never saw that before. So we go get the new refrigerator, and we're bringing it in, and we come into the living room, and they're dancing cheek to cheek in the middle of the living room singing, we're getting a new refrigerator. So we put the new refrigerator in, they toasted it, and they said, new refrigerator, welcome to our family. We're so glad that you're here. And they toasted it. And we went and got in the truck, sitting in front of their house. And I was thinking about the guy that morning, that miserable rich guy that morning. And I'm thinking about these people. I'm thinking, these are the happiest people I've ever seen in my life. Here's another truth about attitudes. God rewards good attitudes. If you're a parent, you need to reward good attitudes. You need to punish bad attitudes. If you only punish behavior, you're behind the curve. If your child has a bad attitude and you're not disciplining that attitude, you're behind the curve. You discipline some of our son, Brent, and I think he's in this service. I said, what did you do, Brent? He said, nothing. I said, well, Brent, you did something to get this note. What did you do? He said, nothing, Dad. I didn't do one thing. I said, why'd they give you the note? He said, I rolled my eyes at the teacher. And I said, then you deserve that note. Discipline attitudes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Good attitudes. It's not that just they're doing what you say, but they're doing it with a good attitude. Now, this is James 4:6. God resists the proud. That's an attitude. But he gives grace to the humble. That's an attitude.
57061. 10-year-old girl fallen from the cliffs with serious leg injuries. Over.
Thank you, Jet 11 is mobile to grid. Copy the injuries. We should be airborne in 2 minutes. Over.
Upper leg and lower leg injuries as described. Mountain rescue team will deploy smoke.
The sharpest object in the world is actually soft and formless. Water. When pressurized to over 100 gigapascals and forced through a 0.05 millimeter nozzle, water transforms into the world's sharpest blade. This incredible water jet cutter is capable of slicing through fruit, breaking rocks, and even turning iron into a mushy paste. It can effortlessly penetrate multiple layers of bulletproof glass stacked together. Even the hardest material on Earth, the diamond, has to admit defeat when faced with this powerful force.
Wear safety goggles during use.
And what is inside a metal anvil?
More anvil,
more metal.
Sometimes you see a human run and it just looks as if they were born to do it. At just 12 years old, Maya Jobbins fits this description perfectly. Displaying an incredible gift at an early age, she has competed at a national level.
I think having a good mentality definitely helps in your races.
I was fortunate enough to speak with Maya on an episode of the Jog On podcast about her journey with running so far. From there, we decided to take on a park run together in Woking, England. I had no idea that that morning would bear witness to such a special performance from someone so young, determined and clearly born to run.
You set the pace and hopefully I can cling on for dear life. I am breathing hard.
I'm sure you'll be just fine.
You told me that time you did a park run where you ran a 3:30 kilometre and was like, oh, that was a bit quick.
Yeah, but I didn't manage to keep that up.
So that's the only thing. We might need to be careful that Maya doesn't go flying out the gate. We hit a 3:30 and we both just collapse from exhaustion and can't actually complete the 5.
Laced up and the Jog On socks ready, Maya and I performed a few strides to get the legs loose. It was getting close.
We have 5 minutes. Let's see how it goes.
We made our way into the gathering crowd and discussed some last-minute plans on how best to execute this 5K. This was the start
of Woking Park Run as we approach the first bend with Maya.
Once I started, I just really enjoyed it, and after that, I just wanted to keep on running.
Looking smooth and relaxed, Maya was chatting to me already as more park runners poured out of the start. Weaving in and out of those on their first lap, we turned corners.
Brilliant, Maya, well done.
Maya was merciless in her pursuit of taking second lady's spot and passed her with relative ease.
I always find for myself that the 3rd and the 4th K is the slowest and the hardest.
Having passed another man, it was this stride length that now carried Maya up the final hill to the finishing straight.
This is it. Maya Jobbins absolutely striding away in front of me.
To see Maya pushing forward like this from where I was filled me with an unexpected pride. And with that, Maya hit the final bend.
Let's go, Maya!
And as the girl born to run, put the hammer down.
Push, push, push!
Glorious running. Beautiful stuff, look at this.
And I think you're right, your style, you make the most of your stride length, and I think that does seem to suit you quite well on those harder surfaces.
She's going, it's going to be a cracking time.
All the way through!
What a spectacular run. And 13 seconds later, I stumbled across the line after her.
You absolutely flew. Dominant running, incredible athletic performance. Where on earth will she be when she's in her 20s?
I mean, I'm only 12, as you said, so I'm just taking it one day as it comes. Yeah, I just want to enjoy it.
They hunt in silence. The hand sign indicates that one of them has found the track of a group of kudu. These are the San people of the Kalahari Desert, the last tribe on Earth to use what some believe is the most ancient hunting technique of all, the persistence hunt. The animals have taken fright. They will concentrate on the bull. He will be carrying a heavy set of horns and therefore will tire more quickly. The sun is directly overhead and the men sense a change in the kudu's pace. He's slowing. After hours of tracking, they've entered an almost trance-like state of concentration. The heat is hard on the hunters, but they're now close enough for the next stage in the hunt, the chase. This is the signal for it to begin. But only one man will undertake it, Karoe, the runner. He must be relentless. It's now a test of endurance. Who will collapse first, the man or the animal? This was how men hunted before they had weapons, when a hunter had nothing more than his own physical endurance with which to gain his prize. Running on 2 feet is more efficient over long distances than running on 4. A man sweats from glands all over his body and so cools himself. A kudu sweats much less and has to find shade if it's to cool down. And a man has hands with which to carry water, so during the chase he can replenish the liquid he loses as sweat. Hours pass and Karoe is getting closer. But then the kudu runs into thick cover. The tracks have disappeared. Karoe tries to put himself into the mind of the kudu and himself reenacts the moment when it heard him approaching as it tried to rest in the shade. He deduces the direction in which it must have fled. It's close by. The chase has lasted 8 hours.
I recently read The Long Game by Dory Clark. What would your life look like if you played the long game? Well, for starters, you might have more health and vitality. If you had a vision of playing with your great-grandchildren at age 100 and let that vision drive your decisions, you'd pass on fast food meals, prioritize exercise each day, and stick to a nighttime routine to get adequate sleep each day. If you embrace the long game, your work would be more satisfying because you'd patiently master first principles in whatever field you're in, and over the course of a decade, become a well-known expert who is greatly admired and respected by others. If you embrace the long game, you'd make more money because instead of pushing customers to make a sale, you'd focus on providing a great service and building great relationships that would result in repeat sales and countless referrals. And if you embrace the long game, you'd be less stressed because when your portfolio goes down on any given day or week, you can zoom out and have confidence that your investments will go up 10 years from now.
I think this is very important. If you look at this graph of success, you can see it going up, but obviously a person has a plan, and then look at the blue line, how it actually happened. So many things that happened that you did not expect, so many unexpected small failures. If you focus on the long game, on the future, in your marriage, in your business, wherever, you don't have to be thrown by short-term failures. You can have perspective about this, and you can actually have an attitude of perseverance, saying, well, we'll just work through this, and the best is yet to come.
Having the patience and perseverance to play the long game and experience the health, job satisfaction, wealth, and calm that come with playing the long game, you need to adopt two life philosophies: optimize for interesting and think in waves. First, optimize for interesting. When given a choice, choose the more interesting path. Because the more interested you are in a journey, the more likely you are to stay the course and see annoying problems as rewarding intellectual challenges. A lawyer in the book enjoyed a long, fulfilling career as an in-house lawyer at Etsy because as a part-time jeweler who sold some necklaces and earrings on Etsy, she could relate to the artist she was serving and was eager to fight for their rights every day. When you create a product to solve a problem you're struggling with, you have a vested interest in building, testing, and innovating a product until it succeeds. When author Tim Ferriss was looking for ideas for his first business, he reviewed his credit card statements and found that he consistently spent a large portion of his income on health supplements. Upon further reflection, he realized that his interest in health supplements and his time spent researching and testing supplements would allow him to find gaps in the supplement market, more effectively market his supplement, and build a sustainable business. Optimizing for interesting in your career, business, and investments gives you the energy and capacity to play the long game. But long-term thinkers playing the long game expect their current opportunity or advantage to run its course, so they're always working on the next opportunity. A business owner playing the long game aims to stretch the sales of their current product as much as they can, while simultaneously investing in research and design so that their next product is ready when their current product sales eventually decline. A freelancer or consultant playing the long game dedicates a portion of their work week to over-delivering for their current clients, and a portion of their work week looking for new clients. Everyone in their 20s can play the long game by focusing on being a star in their current job, while simultaneously working on a side business that could take off in 5 years.
This graph roughly represents what your work life should look like. 60% should be your job, your day job. 30% should be something you're working on the sidelines, and about 10% or 9% is represented there should be some new project that could become something big and replace the 60%. So obviously people think, where they're going to get this time? Well, in your waking hours, there's a lot of time in the week, over weekends, before work, after work, that you can spend in these other two little classes to develop jobs that can one day become the 60%.
In the end, if you want to enjoy more health, job satisfaction, wealth, and calm, you need to play the long game. Author Dory Clark says, if you plan with a longer horizon than everyone else, and you're willing to endure the ups and downs along the way, you'll be able to accomplish far more than others, or even you, imagined. That was the core message that I gathered from The Long Game by Dory Clark.